There's a moment that happens to almost nobody. Not because it's rare in a mystical sense, not because the universe is unfair, but because almost everyone quits exactly one decision before they reach it. And the cruel part is, when they quit, it doesn't feel like quitting. It feels like being responsible. It feels like finally treating yourself. It feels completely justified. That moment is $30,000. And what happens after it is so different from what happens before it that financial psychologists have started treating it less like a number and more like a doorway. My name is Jorjo, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, financial psychology, and why some people seem to effortlessly build wealth while others stay stuck cycling through the exact same financial patterns for decades, no matter how much they earn. If you're someone who wants to understand the real mechanics behind wealth building, instead of just hoping things will magically improve, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stick around to the end. Because today, we're not talking about how to get to $30,000. We're talking about what happens the moment you do, and why almost everyone immediately sabotages it without realizing that's what they're doing.
Let me ask you something first. When you picture someone with $30,000 saved, what comes to mind? Maybe someone who finally relaxes? Someone who deserves a reward after years of discipline? Someone who's earned the right to loosen up a little? Here's the uncomfortable truth. That instinct, the one that says you've earned the right to relax, is the single most dangerous thought in all of personal finance. And it shows up almost exactly at $30,000, like clockwork, in nearly everyone who reaches it. Think about the boulder metaphor for a second, because I used it before talking about $20,000, and it still applies here, just one size up. Pushing a boulder up a hill is brutal at the bottom. You're straining, you're questioning everything, progress feels invisible. But somewhere past the halfway point, momentum kicks in. The boulder starts wanting to move. $20,000 was your first taste of that momentum. $30,000 is something else entirely. It's the moment the boulder genuinely crests its first real hill. Not all the way up the mountain, but high enough that something fundamental changes in how the climb feels. From here, gravity isn't just helping you anymore. Gravity is doing real noticeable work, and that should feel incredible. For most people, it feels like the finish line instead.
Here's what's actually happening in your brain when you hit this number, and this is where it gets genuinely strange. Up until this point, every dollar has been laboriously, painfully earned through direct effort. You worked, you got paid, you didn't spend it, you repeated that cycle a few hundred times. Your brain understands that kind of money completely. It's tangible. It's connected to hours and sacrifice. But at $30,000 invested, compound growth starts generating real annual income that has nothing to do with your effort that day. At a conservative 8% return, you're now looking at roughly $2,400 a year showing up without you lifting a finger. $2,400, that's not life-changing on its own, but it's the first year your money has ever paid you back more than a single decent paycheck. Automatically. Every single year. Growing. And here's the part almost nobody talks about. That money feels fake to your brain. Not in a good way, in a dangerous way. Because your brain has spent your entire life building a direct physical association between effort and money. Sweat equals dollars. Hours equal dollars. When dollars start appearing that aren't connected to any sweat or hours, your brain doesn't know how to categorize them. It doesn't feel like money you should protect the way you protect earned money. It feels like found money, house money. And found money gets treated completely differently than earned money, even though it spends exactly the same.
This is documented, by the way. Behavioral economists call it mental accounting, and the research is fascinating. People who receive an unexpected windfall, even something as simple as a tax refund or a bonus, are dramatically more likely to spend it frivolously compared to the same amount earned through regular paychecks. Same dollar amount, completely different psychological category in your brain. And once your portfolio crosses $30,000, a meaningful chunk of your annual growth starts living in that exact same mental bucket. Found money, not real money. money that doesn't quite count. This is exactly why so many people, the moment they hit this number, start making decisions that look reasonable in isolation, but devastating in aggregate. The car upgrade, the bigger apartment, the vacation that gets justified because, hey, your money is growing on its own now, so what's the harm? Each decision alone seems fine. Together, they form a pattern that quietly drains the exact momentum that took years to build.
Let me show you the actual math, because the math is where this gets brutal. Let's say you're contributing $500 a month and earning that same 8% return. Going from zero to your first $30,000 takes roughly 4 years of disciplined, consistent saving. That's the brutal, slow, unglamorous part, the part where most people give up. But here's the twist almost nobody sees coming. Going from $30,000 to $60,000 doesn't take another 4 years. It takes about 3. Same monthly contribution, same effort. A full year faster, purely because your existing money is now working alongside you. By the time you're moving from $90,000 to $120,000, that milestone takes closer to 2.5 years. The acceleration isn't linear. It's closer to exponential, and it becomes almost unfair in the best possible way once you're past this first real threshold. That threshold isn't just a number. It's the point where the math fundamentally starts changing who's doing the heavy lifting. Before it, you are, almost entirely. After it, your money is quietly starting to carry real weight alongside you.
This is precisely why $30,000 functions less like a milestone and more like a fork in the road. One path, the well-worn one, the one almost everyone takes, treats this number as permission to relax. The discipline that built it quietly erodes because the urgency that created that discipline is gone. You don't feel desperate anymore. And it turns out desperation, as uncomfortable as it is, was doing a lot of the work keeping your spending in check. Remove the desperation, and for most people, the discipline doesn't survive long without it. The other path, the one almost nobody takes, treats $30,000 as proof of concept rather than a reward. Proof that the system works. Proof that you specifically, with your specific income and your specific habits, are capable of building real wealth. And here's where it gets genuinely interesting. The behaviors that get you to your second $30,000 are almost identical to the behaviors that got you to your first. Same contribution rate, same investment approach, same general lifestyle. The only thing that's different is the math working in your favor instead of against you.
Let me introduce you to 2 people who both hit $30,000 at the exact same age, with the exact same income, the exact same starting point. We'll call them Sam and Riley. Sam hits $30,000 and feels something shift internally. The years of sacrifice finally feel like they've paid off, and Sam decides it's time to enjoy some of it. Nothing reckless. A nicer car, paid mostly in cash, which feels responsible. A slightly bigger apartment, because Sam's earned more space after years of cramped living. A few more dinners out, because life is short, and Sam has been disciplined for years now. Each decision feels earned. Each decision feels reasonable. Riley hits the exact same $30,000 and feels something different. Not deprivation, not some superhuman willpower that Sam lacks. Riley simply reframes the number differently. To Riley, $30,000 isn't a reward. It's evidence. Evidence that the system Riley built actually works, which means doubling down on that system is the obvious move, not stepping back from it.
10 years later, Sam has roughly $55,000. Solid. Respectable. Better than the vast majority of people Sam's age. But the momentum that existed at $30,000 is essentially gone, replaced by a slightly elevated lifestyle that consumes most of what would have otherwise compounded. Riley, with the same income and largely the same discipline as before, has just over $210,000. Same starting point, same effort level, more or less. The only meaningful difference between Sam and Riley is what $30,000 meant to each of them psychologically in that single moment. For Sam, it meant arrival. For Riley,
It meant momentum. That's the entire gap. Not talent, not luck, not even income, just interpretation. So how do you actually become Riley instead of Sam? Because I promise you, almost nobody plans to become Sam. Nobody consciously decides to sabotage their own momentum. It happens quietly, through a series of individually reasonable decisions that nobody warned them to watch for. The first thing that genuinely changes the outcome is naming the milestone differently before you even reach it. If you go into $30,000 already telling yourself this is proof, not a prize, you change how your brain files it the moment you arrive. This sounds almost too simple to matter, but the research on mental framing is consistent. How you label an event before it happens significantly predicts how you behave once it does. The second thing is separating your lifestyle decisions from your portfolio milestones entirely. If you want a nicer car or a slightly bigger apartment, make that decision based on your actual income and actual needs, completely independent of what your savings happens to be sitting at that month. The moment your spending decisions start referencing your account balance instead of your paycheck, you've accidentally turned your wealth into a justification engine instead of a wealth building engine.
The third thing, and this is the one that actually moves the needle the most, is automating your next milestone before you celebrate this one. The moment you hit $30,000, immediately increase your automatic contribution, even slightly. Not because you need to prove anything, but because doing it before the relaxation instinct has time to set in means you've locked in the next stage of momentum while your discipline is still operating at full strength. You're essentially borrowing your past motivation to protect your future progress before your brain has the chance to talk you out of it. Here's what I want you to actually sit with. $30,000 was never supposed to be the destination. It was always supposed to be the moment your money started carrying real weight alongside you. The fact that it gets treated as a finish line by almost everyone who reaches it isn't a coincidence. It's a predictable, well-documented psychological pattern. And now that you know it's coming, you're already different from most of the people who hit this number before you. You're going to reach $30,000, or you already have. And in that exact moment, your brain is going to whisper that you've earned the right to ease off. It's going to sound completely reasonable. It's going to feel completely justified. And that's precisely the moment that determines whether you end up like Sam or like Riley. Not the moment you started saving, not the moment you hit the number, the moment right after.